What is going on, you guys? It is your boy, Matt Talks Films. I am back with another video, and I am back with another review. And this time, I am talking about the film, the new horror release, Him, directed by Justin Tipping, starring Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans, Julia Fox. And I'm going to tell you guys this right off the bat. This is the most surprising film of the year to me. I am shocked by how much I like this film, and for two reasons. One, I saw this trailer about 1,000 times in the past 4 months. Whenever I go to the theaters, this trailer was showing before every movie I went to go see, and I hated the trailer. I thought the trailer looked horrible, and I was certain that this movie was going to be horrible, and it just wasn't. Two, um, my expectations were really low. One, because of the trailer, and two, about 2 weeks before this movie's release, people who have already seen the film were able to talk about it finally, and everyone was thrashing this film, saying it was horrible, one of the worst movies of the year. And so when I sit down at my matinee showing today, I am shocked. I am waiting for this movie to make me hate it. I'm waiting for this movie to be so bad that it's affecting how I feel about the movie. And I'm here to tell you, didn't feel any of those sentiments throughout this entire movie. I'm watching this movie, I'm like, yeah, there's some really bad spots in this movie. Yeah, there's a lot of over the top actions in this movie, whether it's from the actors or whether it's from the creative decisions. And this movie did not let me down. And in fact, it was one of the most intriguing and fascinating and one of the most entertaining films I've seen all year. Now, let me tell you this right off the bat again. This is not a great movie. It's probably not one of the very best movies of the year. Certainly not. It's about like 15 on my 2025 rankings. Um, but this is a good movie, and I'm really surprised so many people hate it. I am not understanding the hate this movie is getting. And listen, I can understand why someone won't like it, but to say it's one of the worst movies of the year, I think you guys need to watch more movies. War of Worlds, Home, starring Pete Davidson. There's been a lot of bad movies this year, and this is not one of the bad movies in my opinion. When I first watched this movie, when I initially got out of the theater, I was like, maybe this movie was so bad that it was good. And then I corrected myself. I'm like, hey, this movie is not so bad it's good. I think it's just good. And I am surprised here with what I got, and I think a lot of people who enjoy movies like this will be surprised with what they got. Like, listen, it's not some great cinematic achievement, this movie. It's not going to be one of the most noteworthy films of the year, but it will be, for me, one of the most entertaining experiences I've had all year. Like, I was watching this movie, and yes, at times I was laughing at it, but also I was heavily intrigued. I really enjoyed half of the creative decisions because there's a lot of creative decisions in this movie. Half of them work, half of them don't, but I admire the amount of creative decisions that are taken. I like the amount of creative liberties that are taken within this film. And to me, that is all I want from a theater experience. Yes, I want you to take chances. I want you to take risks. And this movie takes chances and it takes risks. And yes, it doesn't hit on half of them, but that's fine. As long as you're taking chances and taking risks. That's why I love seeing out of new films. Also, this is a horror movie. It's classified as a horror movie. I was not scared at all. But I do think it could be effective in the horror realm. Don't get me wrong. Horror's been really good this year. This is not the cream of the crop for horror films this year, but it is a noteworthy horror film in my opinion. I think for a topic that, yeah, we've seen before, yes, this isn't a woefully original movie, but it does feel unique and refreshing at times to me, considering, yes, this isn't woefully original, but it takes inside of the sports realm. It takes inside of the football realm. Yes, it's not the NFL, but it's NFL adjacent. It's like the USSFL, I think that's the league in this film. But yeah, man, I've never seen a film of this category, which features demonic giving up your soul in the sports realm. We've seen it in other films like Rosemary's Baby, you name. There's similar films to this, but we've never seen it take place inside the world of sports, especially the world of football. And the football movies we've been getting over these past few years, ever since I can remember, all the football movies stink. And this is actually a good football movie. Yes, it doesn't entirely revolve around football, despite the two biggest main characters in this film being football stars. But I do like the football aspects of this film. At the end of the day, film is my number one entertainment in this world. It's my number one escapism, but my second is football. I love football, so maybe that's why I like this movie, because I did like the football elements within it, but I think that's not why I like this movie. There's a lot of reasons why I like this movie, and there's also a lot of reasons why I think this movie fails. And there's also a lot of reasons why I think people don't like this movie. However, I think I'm going to be on the right side of history in saying this is not a bad movie, and in fact, it's a pretty solid movie. I think the people who are judging and being like, hey, this is one of the worst movies of the year, it's bad, I completely get you. But also, I think you need to loosen up a little bit and enjoy this movie because I went into this movie with the extremely low expectations, and partially it's due to outsiders' words, partially it's due to what I saw from the trailer, and then I'm waiting, and I'm viewing this piece of art in the wrong way. I'm waiting for the movie to make me hate it, and in fact, the movie's kind of making me partially fall in love with it. Like I said, it's not one of the greatest cinematic achievements I've ever seen. Of course not. But this movie made me really like it, and it almost made me love it. The more I thought about this movie after I left the theater, I was like, man, that was a fucking good movie. I am entirely pleased with what I got, and I am so happy that my opinion differs from a lot of other people. And to me, that is something that I need to cherish because a lot of the times I think people get sucked into this view of others. They hear things online and they automatically see the film and they just repeat what others say. For me, I saw this movie and I'm like, wow, the discourse for this movie is very interesting. I'm in the minority of what people think about this film. I actually think this film is good, and like about 99% of the viewers who've seen this movie think this movie's bad, which is crazy to me. There's been a whole lot of bad movies this year. This is not one of them. So let me get into the story of this film. Let me get into what I liked about this film, and let me get to what I loved about this film. And let me get to what I hated about this film. Him, starring Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans. First of all, what a great decision change. This movie was originally titled GOAT, and they switched it to Him. First of all, one of my complaints with this film was it is a little too on the nose in certain parts. We'll get to that. But if this movie was named GOAT, I think this would be a lot worse product for me because then it's just extremely on the nose. But thankfully, it's called Him and not GOAT. But anyway, this film is something we've seen before. It features sports tropes that we've seen before, and it features horror tropes that we've seen before. So what is this film about? This film stars Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans. Tyreek Withers is Cameron Cave, this new big shot football player who's projected to be the number one overall pick in the draft, and he's supposed to overtake the GOAT, played by Marlon Wayans, who plays Isaiah White. Now, Tyreek Withers' character looked up to Isaiah White his whole life. He was his favorite player growing up. He was his dad's favorite player growing up, and his dad modeled him to be the next Isaiah White, to be the GOAT. And that's what this film is ultimately about. Cade is ready to go into the draft. He's ready to overtake the GOAT spot on the San Antonio Saviors, which another on the nose. Holy shit, it gets super on the nose. But he's ready to overtake Isaiah White's spot on the San Antonio Saviors. There's really interesting family dynamics, whether it's his brother, his girlfriend, who he's been dating since high school, his mother, and then ultimately a really good twist with his dad. No spoilers. I won't spoil this movie. I think I'll spoil it maybe towards the end. Maybe I won't even get into spoilers. But yeah, it's we're about a week away from the combine, maybe a day, and Cade is practicing, and all of a sudden he suffers a blunt trauma injury, um, leading him to doubt his NFL career and leaving him to wonder if it's worth it to play in the NFL due to this blunt trauma injury. So he skips on the combine due to his injury, and a week later, he gets a call from his idol. Listen, teams are ready to give up on you, but hey, if you come out and train with me for a week, maybe I can convince a team to take you. Maybe I can convince my own team to take you when I retire. So that's what happens. That's when it unfolds. Isaiah Withers. Cade accepts this deal and goes to train with his idol for a week. And what unfolds in the house of Isaiah White is really entertaining, despite getting over the top and on the nose. Now, I want to talk about the performances here. Tyreek Withers as Cade, Cameron Cade, not a man of a lot of words, which I honestly think plays into his benefit here. I am familiar with this guy from I Know What You Did Last Summer, I believe, and I hated that movie. It's one of the worst films of the year. I think that movie is dreadful. And he was honestly one of the bright spots about this movie. And then you see him in this, and he's serviceable. He is pretty good. He gives a solid performance. And one, he is extremely believable as this number one overall draft pick. he looks like a quarterback. He looks like a quarterback who's about to be a great NFL quarterback. That's what I really appreciated. The throwing motions of this guy looked great. There's not a lot of football plays in this film, but the football plays in this film and the football drills shown in this film are really good, especially from the quarterback position. He looks like he's about to be a quarterback. He's in great shape, Tyreek Withers, for this film, and I really enjoyed him in this movie. He's extremely serviceable, and he's one of the most solid parts of this film. Let's get into Marlon Wayans. First of all, I love Marlon Wayans. He was a big staple in my household. For me personally, whether it was on a Saturday morning, eating Captain Crunch, watching the Wayans Bro show, whether it was White Chicks, whether it was Little Man, whether it was Scary Movie 1, Scary Movie 2, this man played a huge part of my life, and I will forever cherish Marlon Wayans through the bad, through the good, and through the ugly. And I love Marlon Wayans. Listen, he's done some really bad projects recently. He's even gonna do Scary Movie 6, which I have some really high endearment towards, especially the first two. I think those two are the funniest movies of the 2000s, or at least deserves to be in that conversation. But yeah, so I love Marlon Wayans through the thick and thin. I think that man is a really good person, a really good human being. And I also think Marlon Wayans is a really, really underrated aspect of our culture. And I love Marlon Wayans. So, anyway, when I was watching the trailer for this film, and like I said, I've seen this trailer like 1,000 times because of how much I go to the movies, I was worried I wouldn't be able to take Marlon Wayans seriously. I was able to take him seriously in Requiem for a Dream and a couple other movies, but notably, he is a comedic actor. He is a comedian. And whenever I saw the trailers for this film, I was like, man, I cannot buy him as this greatest of all time quarterback. And I don't know if I'll be able to take him seriously. And I'm here to tell you, this is one of the most mixed performances I've ever seen in my life. This is one of the most up and down performances I've ever seen in my life. There's parts of this movie where Marlon Wayans is super over the top, egregiously over the top. There's parts of this movie where Marlon Wayans is laughably bad. And then there's also other parts of this movie where the emotion that Marlon Wayans is conveying is really, really good. And yeah, he doesn't have the build. That's one of my biggest flaws with the character is Marlon Wayans doesn't have the build of being the supposed greatest quarterback of all time or the GOAT of football. He just does not look like a quarterback. He just doesn't. I know there's short quarterbacks in the NFL, Kyler Murray, Drew Brees, Bryce Young, but Marlon Wayans does not look like a quarterback, and that's one of my biggest things about this movie. If they would have changed him to like a wide receiver or a running back or a corner, then it would make sense. But the QB is the number one position in football, so I get why they made it a QB. But anyway, the motions that Marlon Wayans conveys in some scenes is really impressive, and there's parts of this movie I'm like, hey, good for you, Marlon. Good shit. I like what I'm seeing. And then also there's other parts where he's just so over the top that I'm laughing at what's happening, which is completely fine. I really enjoyed his chaotic, you don't know what he's going to do next vibe of his character, and I think Marlon Wayans conveys that pretty well. So overall, despite there being some really big glaring holes with his performance in some spots in this film, I thought his performance was good enough, and I think it's one of the big takeaways from this movie. It's not anything groundbreaking. It's not one of the best performances of the year, but to say I didn't enjoy his performance through the good, the bad, and the ugly would be a lie. I really enjoyed Marlon Wayans' performance in this movie. We also got Julia Fox again in this movie. Listen, Julia Fox, man, she was one of my biggest crushes in Uncut Gems, and she continues to be a beauty, but whoa, she looked fucking incredible in this movie. There's a couple of scenes in this movie where I'm like, whoa, like, I'm like, damn, Julia Fox, you look good as hell. Shout out to you. Keep killing shit. And honestly, she wasn't bad in this movie either. There's a part when she first got introduced in this movie, I was like, oh no, she's gonna suck in this movie. Did not suck in this movie, in my opinion. So, shout out to Julia Fox on all fronts. You look incredible, and you did a good enough job in this movie to not be a big standout in the negative area. So Julia Fox, never not been sexy, but damn, she's looking like peak sexy again. Not to sexualize her at all, but wow, she looked really goddamn good in this movie, especially in a dance scene. That's all I'll say before I get out of hand. All right, so let's talk about some of the creative decisions made by Justin Tipping and company. This is one of the most visually appeasing films of the year, in my opinion. Listen, there's not any sort of groundbreaking cinematography. There isn't anything of that great of nature. But some of the imagery on the screen that you get to endure and you get to fully embrace is really captivating to me. There's some really, really good changes of imagery in this film. There's a scene in this film where Tyreek Withers, aka Cade, is taking hits. We're getting into the middle of this week that he's been spending with his idol Isaiah White, and there's a scene in this movie where he's been getting put through it. He's getting hit hard. He's like, why am I getting hit so hard? And ultimately, he's had enough, and he leans with his head. And as the defender's coming in, he hits the defender hard on the head, and there's a change of imagery. It goes to black and white. You see the brain and both their skulls collide against each other, and you see the blood rushing through their brain. And it's a really, really interesting creative choice. And it's one of the creative choices that hits for me. They use that sense of imagery like twice throughout the movie, and I really enjoyed that. I really, really, really like that. Um, Listen, I'm a big fan of directors taking chances, and Justin Tippin, you can't say you didn't take any chances. Whether if 100% hit, listen, you weren't batting at 1,000 here. You weren't even batting at 750. You weren't even batting at 500. But hey, we'll take 250 in the MLBs, baby. We'll take 250 in the MLBs. That'll get you paid, bro. So, Justin Tipping, I'm not overly impressed, but I'm impressed a little bit. I did not see this film being that impressive from a visual standpoint, and I certainly didn't see this film being impressive from a storytelling standpoint, and that I really, really enjoyed. So shout out to Justin Tipping. I think he really did a good job as a director, as a filmmaking here. I think Justin Tipping did a really good job as a director and a filmmaker. So shout out to him, and look out for him in the future. This is my first introduction to Justin Tippin, so I gotta check him out. I gotta check out his previous films, and I'll be ready for his next film. Yeah, there's a lot of creative choices made in this movie that I won't get too in depth about because I don't want to overly explain this film. But whether it's references, whether it's these subtle clues, and that's the only time I'll be able to use subtle in this movie. We'll get to that in a little bit, but this movie is not subtle in the slightest, and there's no ambiguous nature to this movie. So I'll just lay that out there for you guys. But I liked a lot of the imagery. I love the visual appeal of this movie, and I really enjoyed the production design. I really enjoyed the set pieces. Um, yeah. So, what I liked about this movie, listen, it really starts with the performances, even though it's a mixed bag. It really starts with the creative decisions, and it really, really ends with the story. Listen, it's not, like I said, it's a story we've seen before in certain horror movies and certain sports movies. It's a young rookie who's ready to enter the NFL, and he wants to achieve what he's always wanted to achieve. He wants to not only execute his vision and his dream, he wants to execute his now deceased dad's vision, a vision that his dad has instilled with him ever since he was a young kid. He used to wake up at 5 a.m., go practice, eat, sleep, football. And the difference between these two characters is pretty good. There's a line in this movie where Marlon Wayne's character, aka Isaiah White, says to him, "To me, it's football, family, and then God." And it's completely opposite with Cade, Tyreek Withers' character. He is family, God, football. So that's the dynamic between the two. What are you willing to give up? Are you willing to make football your number one stay? And that is the ultimate catalyst of the film, and we see it paid off at the end. What decision does he make? What does he decide to do? I won't spoil it yet, but I really enjoyed the dynamic. So it's the old goat ready to retire and the new rook. Except it's not a rookie who thinks his shit doesn't stink. He's just suffered a traumatic brain injury. He's linking up with his idol, and he's not really trying to overstep and one up him. He's just trying to learn, and he learns that one, football is really Isaiah White's life, and two, he is not willing to give up what Isaiah White gave up 20 years ago. And I really enjoyed that. And also, this movie highly explores giving up your soul. Like, listen, you might want to achieve this dream, but if you gotta give up your soul, nah, I'm gonna do it the hard way. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to give up my soul. I want to grind. I want to earn it my way, and I want to be happy when I'm doing this. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be playing football and thinking about how I give up my soul. Those wins, and those championships and those rings won't be nothing. It won't mean nothing if I give up my soul. And there's a really interesting shot to relatively start this movie when Isaiah White's character wins his like eighth championship or ninth or whatever it is because he gave up his soul to win. Like he's winning like his 10th or 11th championship ring, and and there's a shot of like the whole team celebrating in a different room, and Marlon Wayans' character is like in another room by himself holding the championship trophy and looking like he's reflecting in not a great way. He's not happy with what he's achieved and how he's achieved it. So I really appreciated that. Like I'm telling you, man, I'm pretty shocked I liked this movie as much as I did. I think the thematic aspects of this film are really interesting and fascinating, despite how non woefully original it is, which is fine to me. Because despite it not being woefully original, it still felt refreshing and creative and unique to me, which might be an anomaly to a lot of people who've watched the movie. And to me, I like that. I like being on a different side. If I'm going to live in a world that completely agrees with me, that's not the world I want to live in. And no, I'm not this dude trying to be different and trying to be different than others. No, I'm just trying to give my opinion truthfully and honestly. So yeah, that's what I really liked about this movie. The thematic aspects of this movie, the family dynamics. There's a really interesting family dynamic that gets paid off at the end, despite maybe being forcefully pushed upon us. I do think it was a really nice tied bow of this present of a movie. Maybe I wouldn't label this movie a present, but fuck it, I'm gonna leave it in. Yeah. So maybe I should spoil it. From now on we're gonna get into spoilers through this movie because I want to talk about what I hated, and what I didn't like. So my rating of this film is a 3.5 out of 5, which is crazy because a lot of people are giving this movie like a 2, 1.5, or 2.5. I'm a whole star or so above a lot of people. Um, 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10, 70 out of 100. I really enjoyed it. It's one of my most fun theater experiences of the year. Despite not being a packed crowd, I had a fun time. I mean, there's parts of this movie where it was just me in the movie, and I enjoyed that. So 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10, 70 out of 100, and now I'm getting into spoilers. So spoilers. Um, he's been groomed. Cade's character, he's been groomed since a young kid by his dad, and ultimately his dad made the sacrifice of dying for his kid so he can achieve this dream when he gets old enough. And there's no coincidence he's the chosen one now. He's the one picked to overcome Isaiah White, and that was a really nice touch at the end of this movie. Um, the family dynamic, not only with the dad, because the dad turns out that he gave up his life for his son's life, and he sold his soul and his son's soul, or he at least tried to sell his son's soul. And then we see the mother to start this movie who is completely caring about her son's health. Like, if he doesn't play, like, we still love you. His girlfriend shares the same sentiment. He's like, hey, you're not all football to me. You'll be great no matter what. And his brother, despite him wanting his brother to succeed and wanting his brother to get money, he's like, hey, I love you, bro. Like, do what you got to do. And then we also see the simultaneous pressure of Cade's character. We understand why he wants it so bad. One, he doesn't want to disappoint his dad, who's now deceased, and he doesn't know why he's dead yet, but he just knows he died, and he wants to prove his dad right. And then we also understand the immense pressure that athletes who are similar to Cade's situation in real life, they have so many people they gotta feed. They have so many mouths to feed. They have so many people that they gotta not let down, quote unquote, not disappoint. And we see the pressures of that lifestyle and how hard and how goddamn stressful trying to succeed and achieve your dreams are, especially when they're at the highest stakes. So, listen, man, I did not expect to be talking this in depth about him. I didn't. I really didn't. Yeah. What else I didn't like about this movie? This movie is extremely over the top at times. Extremely. It's so over the top. There's some scenes in this movie where Marlon Wayans' character is just yelling in is just yelling in Tyreek Withers' face, and there's some weird lines thrown in throughout this entire movie. There's a scene in this movie where he's at Isaiah White's house, Cade, and they're doing like medical checks, and Isaiah White asks him to strip down naked, and he gets butt ass naked, and he's getting asked all these different questions. It's just super weird. It's Marlon Wayans gives a really interesting performance, good or bad. the overtop. This movie loses itself in its extravagance, or like it just loses itself in its over the topness, if that's even a fucking word or a phrase. This movie loses itself in the scenes that get out of hand. Like there's a scene in this movie where you see in the trailer where there's a football machine that wide receivers typically use, and Cade's character is going through drills that Isaiah set him up through, and if he doesn't complete a pass in 2 seconds every drill, that person in front of the catching machine or the football throwing machine gets hit in the face. So you have to perfect this drill in order to save your teammate who is getting absolutely brutally fucked around with and destroying his face due to a football throwing machine. And to me, that is an interesting scene. It's like what the fuck kind of scene, but also that movie kind of loses itself in those type of scenes, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, it's not a bad scene, but also I think a little bit over the top with what it was trying to execute and achieve. Um, I do wish this movie was more subtle as well. There's a lot of references. There's a lot of quote unquote subliminal imagery, which is not subliminal at all. And I really wish this movie was a little bit more subtle. I wish it wasn't so quickly sus when we got there. Yes, we get an opening scene between Isaiah White and Cade where it's seemingly all cool. Isaiah is like stuffing these animals or making ornaments or whatever out of these dead animals, and that's how we get introduced. The first day is a normal day, but I think we get brushed by that a little too quickly, and then it gets taken to a whole different level on some of these days where it's a little bit ridiculous. I also liked how this movie dealt with surrealism. There's a lot of different surrealism aspects to this movie that worked for me. One of the spookiest scenes of this movie where a ravaged superfan of Isaiah White sneaks into the sauna of Cade's and she tries to kill him because she doesn't want him to be the quarterback of the San Antonio Savages yet. She still wants it to be Isaiah White. So she tries to kill him, and the two Furiosa looking guys in this movie are watching her try to kill him, and then Isaiah White ultimately, quote unquote, saves uh, Tyreek Withers' character and kills that girl. But before he kills her, he makes out with her. So there's a lot of weird shit in this movie, but I embrace weirdness. I especially embrace weirdness in films, and this movie has a lot of weird shit, and I admire the weird shit in this movie. I admire the creative risk and decision. So I really appreciate this movie trying to be unique and trying to be refreshing. So the overtop nature of this movie and the quote unquote extravagance, this movie almost loses itself completely for me. But luckily, there's a lot of other substance in this movie that keeps me fascinated and intrigued throughout. I also didn't love the soundtrack of this movie. Parts of it did feel like a music video or a commercial. Um, this movie felt a lot less like a music video or commercial, I will say, because the trailers of this film felt like it was going to be a music video, like something out of like Hurry Up Tomorrow, the Weekend film, and Barry Keoghan film, and the Jenna Ortega film. Like this did not feel like a music video. It didn't feel like commercial. But there are some times during this film where I'm like, God damn it, I wish there was another song playing over or a different score playing. Sometimes I wish the vibes of this film were a little bit different. Like it was played or directed differently, but listen, I'm not going to nitpick this film too hard because this film knows exactly the type of film it is, and I appreciate that. I like when a filmmaker and a film is self-aware but not overtly self-aware, and I think this film is the right amount of self-aware. Um, so I've been talking about this movie longer than I could have imagined, especially before the film, and I think this should be enough. You know what I mean? So I really, really enjoyed the performances through the good, the bad, and the ugly. I really enjoyed the thematic aspects of this film. I really enjoyed the story and the ultimate quote unquote twist at the end. And I really enjoyed the visual imagery of this film. And I also really appreciate the creative risks that were taken in this film. So what I didn't like, summarize a little bit better for you guys, is I didn't like the overtop nature of this film at times. I didn't like how non-subliminal and subtle this movie was. This movie was too on the nose in certain aspects. I didn't love the soundtrack at all. I wish there was better music that accompanied and elevated this movie. If the music was spot on, I really think this movie would have been elevated a little bit more for me if it wasn't for wrong choices for the soundtrack, if I could put it that way. And yeah, I wish some of the action or the horror sequences were a little bit better. I think some of the horror sequences in this movie, quote unquote, were suffering from the other problem in this movie, which was it was too over the top and it was too ridiculous at some points. And I do wish, despite me liking Marlon Wayne's performance through the good, the bad, and the ugly, I do wish his performance was a little bit more dialed back and refined. But maybe if his performance was a little dialed back and refined, it wouldn't have that Marlon Wayne's aspect to his character. So maybe it was the right choice to not have his performance so refined and too dialed down. I think he dialed it all the way up and you could feel it. And I think it's either going to work for you or it's not. And I think maybe Marlon Wayne's performance is why people might not like this movie. But I am a Marlon Wayans fan and I appreciated what he gave this movie through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So yeah, I'm gonna say this. I enjoyed this movie. It's a 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10, and 70 out of 100. I did, like I said, I did appreciate the ending of this movie. His dad turned out to be grooming him to sell his soul, and the dad ultimately sold his soul so his son can achieve what the dad wanted him to. And ultimately, Cade cared more about family and God than he cared about football. And yes, he still wants to play football, but he's not willing to sacrifice everything that he loved to give up football. So ultimately, he doesn't sign the contract that Isaiah White signed 20 years ago. He kills Isaiah White only because Isaiah White was left with a choice. He retires at the end of the season, and meaning he retires is that if he loses to Tyreek Withers' character, aka Cade, in a 1v1, then he's dead. He's done. He's retired. But if he beats Isaiah Withers' character in a 1v1, meaning combat wise to the death, um, he will play another season. And ultimately, he cares more about football than anything else in life. So he tried to fight Tyreek Withers, Cade's character. He even breaks Cade's arm. But ultimately, the young buck overtakes the old buck. And Cade is left with the choice. And the choice that Cade chooses is kill every motherfucker who is a cult member or a satanic ritualist in this movie. And I love that. He killed everybody in this movie who was a satanic ritualistic son of a bitch, and I loved that. I enjoyed it. So 7 out of 10, 3.5 out of 5, 70 out of 100, and it was one of my favorite theater experiences of the year. I think I might be on the wrong side of history or the right side, depending how you view it. I like this movie. I thought it was good. I thought it was solid, and honestly, it shocked me. So shout out to Justin Tipping. Shout out to my boy Marlon Wayans, who's still putting in work. Shout out to Tyreek Withers. Maybe we see more of him in the future. Maybe we see more sports-related movies from him because he looked good throwing the football. He looked good throwing the pigskin. So, yeah, Julia Fox. Love to see this renaissance by you, girl. Whoa. Sexy as hell in this movie. Like, damn, bro. I almost said damn, but thankfully I'm a good patron in the theater. So, him. One of my favorite movies of the year, low-key. Top 15 movie. It feels like this movie could be rewatchable. It feels like this movie could come back into my life sooner rather than later. And for a movie that's about 15th on my 2025 list, I think that's pretty goddamn good, especially for what I imagined it would be. So listen, I'm not going to say this, but I should say this. Take this review with a little bit grain of salt. Don't take it with a complete grain of salt, but my expectations were so low for this movie that maybe that's why I end up liking this movie so much, but ultimately I don't think that is the deal. There's too many highlights of this movie and there's too many things to like from this movie for me where I don't think that's the case. And even if it was the case, this movie is so bad it's good, or it's just flat out solid and it's just flat out good. It's a good sports movie. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting premise, and despite the premise not being woefully original, it feels refreshing and creative and unique at times, and you appreciate the filmmaking decisions, and you appreciate how all in these characters are and how all in the actors are in this movie. They are fucking all in this movie, and you could tell, especially Marlon Wayans. So this is my review. This is my video for him. If you've seen this movie, Him, let me know how you like it. I assume you didn't like it, but if you did like it, give me a hell yeah in the comments. And if you didn't like it, tell me how wrong I am in the comments. It is your boy, Matt Talks Films. I'll be back next week. Man, PTA is one battle after another. Dude, the hype, let me get this off real quick. I know it's the end of the video, and if you've been watching this channel, you know how many times I try to end a video, and it's about 6 to 7 times each video, and I never ended up on the first try. So, one battle after another. The hype is officially insanely real for that movie. One, it should have been in the first place because it's one of the greatest American filmmakers we have, and just ultimately one of the very best filmmakers we have ever had, in Paul Thomas Anderson. If you consider yourself a person who loves film, he is easily one of your favorite directors of all time, one of your favorite filmmakers of all time. And honestly, if you're a young person like me, I'm 24, you feel like shit because you know when he made Hard Eight and fucking Boogie Nights. And as a 24-year-old who's struggling with his identity in the world of art and work, that hurts my soul. But hey, he also shows me that anyone can do it, no matter the age, no matter if they went to film school or not. So I admire him. I don't hate any of his movies. The only films I don't love of his are Inherent Vice and Licorice Pizza, but I don't love them, but they're also very good movies. So this is his first film since Licorice Pizza. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. My favorite films of him are obviously Boogie Nights, There Will Be Blood, The Master, and Punch Drunk Love. I think Punch Drunk Love is my favorite out of the four, even though all four of those films are masterpieces. Man, I am ecstatic and excited for One Battle After Another. You know this movie's a big deal. It just is. All the pull quotes I've been seeing from reviews of this movie, all of the raving reviews I've seen from people I trusted is absurd. I'm hearing generational type things from this film. So this is a film I'd probably be watching 3 to 4 times in the first week, whether I like it or not. Because it's Paul Thomas Anderson, and he's not that old, but how many movie premieres and how many theater weekends are we going to get with Paul Thomas Anderson in the future? You got to cherish these. It's like a sporting event. It's like watching Josh Allen play. You got to cherish when Josh Allen's play. You got to cherish when, like it or not, as a Bills fan, Tom Brady plays. You got to cherish when Lamar Jackson plays. Paul Thomas Anderson is cut from that same cloth. You got to cherish whenever Paul Thomas Anderson puts out a film, and next week is Paul Thomas Anderson week. Get ready. You know what's crazy about next week? Regal, they're showing There Will Be Blood and fucking One Battle After Another. You also know this movie is a huge deal because Leonardo DiCaprio is doing a Tonight Show. He's doing Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. And he hasn't done a Tonight Show since 2006 when it was Jay Leno. So Leonardo DiCaprio knows what this film is and what it's going to be because he's doing late night rounds. He's doing promotional shit about it. This fucking movie has a Fortnite skin. I don't play Fortnite. Haven't played it since the pandemic. That is wild, bro. This movie is going to be special. You can just feel it. And you know what's going to be amazing? I'm going to go see it Thursday night, and then I'm going to see it with a packed crowd. And honestly, I think Thursday night might be packed. It might be a movie where, fuck it, I love football so much, might have to skip out on Thursday Night Football because I want to see that movie immediately. Or at least I'm watching it before Thursday Night Football. But honestly, if that movie's that good, I don't know how I'm going to be able to sit through a fucking football game right after it and not just talk about it with you guys. One battle after another. It's officially Paul Thomas Anderson week. We are fucking in peak times here, guys. Paul Thomas Anderson drops a film next week, and all I've been hearing about is how fucking generational and how great it is. People are saying it's Paul Thomas Anderson's best film. You know how insane Paul Thomas Anderson's filmography is? That is crazy. That's like saying if Quentin Tarantino next film is his best film. You know how insane Quentin Tarantino's filmography is? That's like saying Scorsese. If Scorsese drops another film and that's his best film, that's a tremendous feat and something you need to experience in theaters. That's not something you want to wait until fucking you're at home watching the movie. And this is a PSA to whoever sees this video, whoever sees this clip. If you're a film fan, if you call yourself a cinephile, which I don't, I've said it in the past, but honestly I hate that term. Can we put an end to cinephile? But if you call yourself a film fan, you love films, you love witnessing historic films in theaters, you love witnessing great filmmakers, newest films in theaters, go see One Battle After Another in theaters. Support this movie because God needs filmmakers like Paul Thomas Anderson. The world of cinema, the world of art needs films from Paul Thomas Anderson. We don't want to see him succumb to releasing films on Netflix, releasing shit on Apple TV. We don't want to see him succumb to releasing movies on Amazon Prime. God forbid. We want that type of filmmaker releasing films in theaters, releasing it in IMAX. This film is directed in VistaVision. Like, you go see this film. I don't know if I'm going to love it yet. I don't know if I'm going to like it yet. I don't know if I'm going to fucking hate it yet. But it's Paul Thomas Anderson. I think it's a safe bet that this is going to be great. And everything I've been hearing from people I don't like, people I heavily respect in the film community, points to this film is going to be generational and special. So go see this film. If you're watching this video right now, watching this clip, go fucking get a ticket right now for One Battle After Another. Book your ticket. Book your ticket. Just do it. I think I'm gonna make a trip to go see this in IMAX. I can't see it in 7 millimeter because fuck Lincoln Square. I mean, you fucking sickos out there buy tickets so fast for Lincoln Square that I can't even get a reasonable time to go see a good film in IMAX 70 millimeter. Hopefully, I'm doing stuff in the city one day where I'm able to go to Lincoln Square and see films in IMAX 70 millimeter, but I won't. I'll just settle for a regular IMAX or a regular theater viewing because you know damn well I will be going to see this film as soon as it gets released. Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, Thursday at night. I will do whatever to see that movie the day it's released. It's Paul Thomas Anderson. We don't get a lot of filmmakers like him, and you need to get a ticket to go see this film. You need to make plans to go see this film because it's that type of event. You clear your schedule for filmmakers like this. So anyway, it's your boy Matt Talks Films. I'll see you next Friday for a hopefully glaring review of One Battle After Another, Leo and Paul Thomas Anderson collab. Give me a fucking hell yeah. It's your boy Matt Talks Films. And you know what? I'll see you soon.